I tell people all the time that I have a lifestyle that pays. I don't have a job. So I've had players call me, I've had players approach me, and I've always said the same thing to every one of them. I will never say anything on television that I wouldn't say to your face. I've said 1,000 complimentary things about Virat Kohli in my career, like more than 1,000 complimentary things. I say one thing that I think might be slightly negative, and all of a sudden, you hate Virat Kohli. Well, hang on a minute, have you not listened for the last 15 years? Exactly. 99% of the people that send me a message, oh, I'd love to meet you after the game. I'd love to go, yeah, bring it on. You want to take this on, good luck to you.
Especially with those guns that you have now,
but
right?
That's what I say, you know. If I can't be honest about what I see now and then there's something wrong. I shouldn't be doing my job. So many people are so wary of saying something about the big players that they feel they can't. But I will say what I think, and I will say what I feel, and I will call it if I don't think it's very good.
I sometimes feel Virat Kohli is the type of person who needs to operate with a chip on his shoulder or a chip on both shoulders to actually get the best out of him.
If you're playing a game against him, just shut up. Just do not say a word to him. I've never had a manager. Always negotiated my own contract.
Oh, brilliant.
If you know your worth, you know your worth. This is a tip for you, because I know you like the beard. The shorter you keep it as you get older, I think the younger it keeps you.
Okay. Is that tip bound to increase female attention, really?
I don't need any more of that.
For me.
Oh, for you, sorry, yes. When it's light, I drink beer. When it's dark, I drink red wine, and it's really dark, I'll have whiskey. Dhoni fans, don't troll me.
I met Simon Doull for the first time on the sets of Cricbuzz, and I don't think there's anyone in the world who can balance firmness and politeness the way Simon Doull does. He tells it like it is with unfettered honesty, but I don't think that's because he wants to attract attention or he wants to unnecessarily stir up controversy. But I think it's because he truly believes that honest conflict has a lot more value than dishonest harmony. A trait that's very refreshing to see, especially in this culture of political correctness and hero worship that we oftentimes see in India. So while Dooley might not be everyone's cup of tea, I can bet my bottom dollar that even the ones who don't necessarily agree with him still respect him tremendously for having the courage and having the spunk to speak his mind the way he does. And speak his mind is exactly what Simon Doull has done in this episode. Before we dive in, I'd like to extend a big thank you to Cricbuzz, who are very kindly powering this episode. Cricbuzz is the highest rated app in the Play Store, and after checking it out, I truly believe that it's only a matter of time before it lives in the pocket of every cricket fan here in India. What I personally love about the app is that it beautifully brings together the entire cricket experience in one app. Live scores, match highlights, commentary, and even short videos. So it doesn't just keep me updated as a fan during this IPL season, but helps me tremendously prepare for my presenting gigs as well as for podcast shoots like this one. So if you've got cricket running through your veins like I do, to bas Cricbuzz karo yaar. Download the app using the link in the description. Dooley mate, it's so good to have you on the podcast. Can I just ask you a question that you probably wouldn't expect at the start of the podcast? What is it that made you accept my invitation to be on the pod? Because I'll be honest with you, when I sent out the invite, I was thinking to myself, this is a really long shot.
I think our working relationship in the past, I do very few podcasts. You get asked a lot by people, particularly in this country. I get asked a lot by people to do podcasts, but I've loved working with you in the past, even though it's only been minimal. And you've always been someone I've looked at as sort of climbing the ranks nicely and doing a great job. And I know you love cricket. I know you love your sport in general, not just cricket. And I thought it'd be nice to have a chat. And you offered to come to my hotel, which also makes it a little bit easier for me. So, no, more than happy to be here, really good.
But Dooley, I have to say I'm flattered, to say the least. Some of those kind words and those heartfelt words of yours, I'm going to be using as a testimonial, to gun for future gigs. That listen, Simon Doull has high words of praise for me.
No problem. You can use it as you wish.
Supreme compliment coming from you. Dooley, so there's a tradition on the podcast where I come up with a tailored, a personal, a quirky introduction for my guest. So I composed one for you as well. And I'm hoping against all hope that you end up liking it, if I may. When I think of Simon Doull, I hear his very sonorous voice in my head that's music to the ears of millions of cricket fans all around the world. A voice so sonorous that the S in the word sonorous now stands for Simon. He's a straight shooter who tells it like it is, so much so that the last time I searched for synonyms of straight shooter on Google, Google gave me Simon Doull. Not a type A personality, but a type A plus personality. Although I will say that he doesn't work hard whatsoever, he only plays hard. And I say that because the work that he does as a commentator feels like play to him. Dooley, are you more flattered or embarrassed?
More flattered, to be honest with you. I tell people all the time that I have a lifestyle that pays. I don't have a job.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase it.
That's how it is to me. It's a lifestyle that pays. It takes me around the world. I get to talk about something I did kind of okay 20-something years ago now. And
India remembers in the World Cup.
Yeah, India remembers the odd one. But it just, it's sort of I pinch myself time and time again. And when I talk to people about why I do it, the way I do things, I absolutely love it. And it's given me everything I have now, and it's sort of it's meant that I've missed out on a few things across time, missing out on watching boys grow up, which is never easy. But everything I sort of get now and have now is a consequence of having played the game 20-something years ago, and I absolutely love it.
And you use this phrase, the way I do things, and I really think, and I've said this to you when we're off air as well, I think one of the things that strikes me about you is the fact that you tell it like it is, and I absolutely love that. I think when I think of people who are radically honest, there aren't too many people that come to my mind, but I think you're definitely one of them. There's this beautiful saying that I actually shared with you on WhatsApp. I heard Joe Rogan say this once, and he said, honest conflict has a lot more social value than dishonest harmony.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that Simon Doull is one of the few who actually truly does justice to this maxim. Were you always this way in your mannerisms, in your outspoken nature, or have you evolved to become the person that you are right now?
I think some of my friends will probably say that I was a little bit this way most of the time. The one thing I did when I played, I never turned an interview down, whether we had a really bad day or a good day. I never turned an interview down because I felt that no matter what story was going to be told, I would prefer it was mine, and I would prefer that they sort of got how I felt out of the day rather than just write something that they thought.
Yeah.
So if I was asked to do an interview of any description, whether it be television, radio, or a newspaper journalist, I always said yes. And I don't know whether that helped me in the long run, sort of garner a bit of a media career, but it made sure that my story was told, and it was, whether it was sort of good or bad. I was
versus
pretty
someone's
honest.
Subjective opinion of your story.
Yeah, and it was always honest. If I had a bad day, I had no problem saying I had a bad day. And I can count probably on two hands the amount of great days I had in Test match cricket, because there wasn't that many. Out of the total number of days, you have a short number of great days. Those that play a lot more tests, they have more. But you've got to remember that it's tough, it's hard, but you've also got to remember that the people that are watching are not silly. They know. They know if somebody plays a stupid shot. They know if they get a good ball. So you have to kind of try and be honest and truthful, I think, in that realm. And sometimes it hurts. I've had players call me, I've had players approach me, and I've always said the same thing to every one of them. I will never say anything on television that I wouldn't say to your face.
I see.
And if you want to come and talk to me about it, that's fine. We don't have to agree.
Yeah.
Because I'm just getting paid for an opinion.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I sit on it.
Exactly. And I love the fact that that's exactly how you react whenever you have fans sending you hate messages, despite the fact that, some of those messages or death threats as well that you've received in the past from RCB fans, MSD fans, from Babar Azam fans.
I've admired, I said 1,000 great things about Virat Kohli, but I say one thing that might be slightly negative or construed to be negative, and I get death threats.
Despite the heinous nature of those messages, your response is very polite. It's polite yet firm, or firm yet polite. And I think that's a lost art. Not too many people can be firm and say things with conviction, while at the same time being gentle and polite.
Look, it's a funny one, or a hard one, because I know that cricket means a lot to certain people and some people. And in this part of the world, cricket means so much, but there is no need to bring family into it or death threats. I mean, it's not the end of the world. You can have, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. I've had guys message me on social media with really good points, arguing against my points, and I've had a conversation with them. Mm-hmm. And I send back a message saying, look, respectfully, thank you so much for your message. Let's have a conversation about this, because this is just my opinion. And you might have a different one, that's okay. You don't have to have the same opinion, you don't have to agree. But when you start death threats and things like that, I mean, I just like to expose some of them.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the right way, I think.
Absolutely.
I don't. I mean, I could go back. I mean, there's 99% of the people that send me a message. Oh, I'd love to meet you after the game. I'd love to go. Yeah, bring it on. You want to take this on? Good luck to you.
Especially with those guns that you have now,
but
right?
that's what I say. You know, when 99% of them would never turn up. Because they'd be too scared to turn up.
Yeah.
But you know, I can't say that because of the position I have. So I would, and I'm more than happy to have a debate and a chat to anyone about anything I have said, and particularly the players, because they have to also understand that sometimes they get a different view of it from their families. They might hear one little piece. You know, I've said 1,000 complimentary things about Virat Kohli in my career, like more than 1,000 complimentary things. I say one thing that I think might be slightly negative, and all of a sudden it's, you hate Virat Kohli. Well, hang on a minute. Have you not listened for the last 15 years?
Exactly.
So that's so emotional.
Yeah.
And I think if you take the emotion out of it and look at the reality of the game and the reality of the situations, you might not entirely agree, but you might say, maybe he's got a point.
Yeah. And I think that's something that characterizes people in the subcontinent as well, in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. When it comes to emotions, it's very, very high, which can be a strength, but it can also be a kryptonite in so many ways. And so you're spot on about the fact that you can say 1,000 good things about a particular player, but it's that one negative thing that might be taken out of context, especially in today's day and age where social media,
it's
reels,
the bites, isn't it? Everybody wants
shorts,
a bite.
bites,
exactly,
are so prominent. I think higher chances that you end up falling prey to some of.
I mean, even what I said about Babar. I mean, the great thing was after about 4 or 5 days after that, I was at the ground. I went outside, made sure I sat down and chatted with him, and said, "Look, this is why I said it. This is the reasons." And in the end, he just said, he said the coach has said the same thing to me, you know. And I said, it's not about me not thinking you're a terrific player. He is a great player. And I just said to him, I said, look, I think you should be dominating this tournament. You should never be afraid to get out. You are that good. And in the end, he was like, we had a bit of an agreement and we shook hands and I walked away. And that's kind of how it should be.
Exactly.
For the most part.
Exactly. Like an argument doesn't necessarily have to be the same as a quarrel, or you can still disagree in a civil manner.
Absolutely.
Can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can debate. And I love a debate. You know, and just think that it's okay to disagree. But it's not okay to be nasty and, you know, threaten families or threaten lives. I mean, that's not what social media is about.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't think.
You know, they're typically called Kiwis nice guys, but I think you're an example of the fact that you can be nice while not necessarily being agreeable all the time. Like nice doesn't necessarily mean you end up becoming naive or you become a pushover.
No, you don't have to be. You know, you don't have to be nasty. I think that's the key. You can get your point across, and still be assertive enough without being horrible or nasty. And none of it. Remember, none of it's personal. It's never personal, and that's the one thing I think people forget when they're watching the game or listening to the game, is it's not a personal attack on anybody. We are talking about the game of cricket. We're talking about a shot that was played, or a ball that was bowled, or a catch that was dropped, or a moment in time and a moment in the game. So nothing's ever personal, and the moment you turn it into a personal thing is when you get it wrong. And you know, and I've been guilty of it in my early days. I was guilty of it on the odd occasion, and I felt bad about it. So I've been quite, I guess, quite strong on not doing that as much. You know, as sometimes you might feel like someone sort of had a go at you, or someone might have said something about you. You can't get personal about it. It's just you just carry on, do your job, call it as you see it, and things will be fine.
It reminds me of something that I learned during my debate days in school. I wasn't really a good debater back in school, a failed debater at best, but some of the teachers who were part of the debate team used to tell us, attack the argument, don't attack the person.
Yes, yeah, it's such a good point. And you know, the great thing about the commentary box is you will have differing opinions. And I also understand that, you know, no matter where you go around the world, and when I come to India, for instance, you know, there are people here who are desperate at times to keep a hold of jobs, and they have to do certain things, and I get that. I like to think that the reason I get invited back more often than not is because I am fair. But I will say what I think, and I will say what I feel, and I will call it if I don't think it's very good.
Exactly.
And I think, you know, people that listen to it, I think they understand it. And as I say, they might not always like it, but that's okay with me.
Exactly. So I read this book. It's called The Laws of Human Nature. It's by Robert Greene. He talks a lot about human psychology, human nature, which are topics that absolutely fascinate me. And this was his hypothesis. I don't know if you agree with this or not. He mentioned that even when you might have lots of people who might hate you for saying certain things that they don't quite agree with, certain things that might go against the narrative, they still secretly respect you for actually having the courage to voice their opinion, because they themselves wish that they had the same courage to do the same.
And I think that's the one thing, the biggest thing I find in India, to be honest with you, is that is such the private messages I get if I make a point, and it doesn't have to be about, MS or Rohit or Virat, or it's just that so many people are so wary of saying something about the big players that they feel they can't. And I don't have a problem. I think, I've looked back over the years that I've been coming here, and since 2007, 2008, and some of the greatest players I played against, Sachin and Rahul and Lakshman and those sorts of guys, Saurav, some of the greatest players I've ever seen have come out of India. I love watching cricket and working on cricket, and I love the way that the players play. But if I can't be honest about what I see now and then there's something wrong. I shouldn't be doing my job. And that's kind of just how I feel about it. Virat's an unbelievable player, and I've said it many times. I say one thing, and all of a sudden it's, you hate him. Why do you hate RCB? Why do you hate Virat Kohli? You say something about MS. He deserves the right to retire whenever he wants to retire. He's had an unbelievable career. He has been one of the best. I mean, you look at his numbers. He's been one of the best players we have ever seen behind the stumps. He's still probably one of the better keepers when he's 100% fit. But I think it's time. I think it's time now, and it's okay to say that. But he deserves the right to actually go out on his own terms and when he wants.
But I'll tell you what's going to happen after this conversation. So we published this conversation. Everything that you talked about in terms of his numbers, his staggering records, you extolling his virtues, that's going to be left out.
That'll be left out.
The money shot's going to be, he should retire.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what people do. They don't listen. They don't listen to the story. They listen to the whole lot, and they just, I want that bit. I want that bit. And that's what we're dealing with. And that's why, when we're dealing with social media, that's what makes our job tough. But you just have to accept that that's the case. There are people out there who will steal your content and ruin your content, and that's all you're doing. And ruin
your name and reputation as well.
They try and ruin your name, your reputation, and they steal content. It's not yours, folks. That's not yours. What I just said to Anubhav is not yours. You can't use it.
Love it, Dooley. I think some of it also stems from the fact that India has this idol worship culture, this hero worship culture, which is good and bad. Of course, you respect and admire the greats from India in all walks of life, but sometimes you take it to an extreme level where you end up putting humans on a godlike pedestal. And I think some of the overreaction that you end up getting to unpopular opinions, yet opinions that actually have some validity, might be stemming from this idol worship culture.
Yeah, possibly. But I also think that that's what makes India so great. It makes Indian cricket so great. And for people to have someone to look up to, someone to idolise, whether it would have been Sachin, whether it was Sunny, in the 70s, 80s, whether it's Sachin in the 90s and 2000s, and MS and Virat now, and who will it be? Who will the next one be? And how will they cope with it? And I think that's something we have to sort of think about too. How will the next generation cope with it? Because it's already so big from a Kohli, Dhoni point of view, from a Rohit Sharma point of view. Who's the next young man that's going to have to deal with this? Is it a Ruturaj? Is it a Shubman Gill who's already starting to deal with it now? It's not easy. It's not easy dealing with this worship, this hero worshipping nature. But I do understand where it comes from, because cricket, if you're not involved in cricket in India, you're really not involved in sport. Because you, from a sponsorship point of view, from a television point of view, and there is an enormous amount of pressure on the young players, on all the players in the Indian setup. And the one thing they have also done is they have made the world of cricket better through the IPL.
Absolutely.
They have made the world of cricket better. They have created better T20 players around the world. You think about the 10 teams now, so there's an opportunity for 40 international players to play, or to take the field every game or every sort of round robin game. So, you think about what they've done for world cricket. Yes, it's been amazing, but has it been, I don't think it's been to the detriment, because you've seen the young player come through who's exceptional, but the pressure has become bigger. The pressure at that very top level is enormous now.
Absolutely. It's like two sides to the same coin. You know, there are, with this fanatical culture towards cricket that you have in India, there are lots of upsides. There are a few downsides as well, but I think fair to say the upsides far outweigh the downsides.
Absolutely. I mean, the lifestyle now and the life of a young cricketer, talented young cricketer, I mean, you know, they should never have to work again once they've finished playing cricket, because of the money in the game nowadays. And as long as that's channeled the right way, I sort of, you know, from a management point of view, you want to make sure that they've got the right management groups behind them, and the right people doing their work for them. And I see too often, I see young players with the wrong management, who are looking for the wrong things and worrying about too much stuff off the field than on the field. And it can be to the detriment of a talented young player. But you still want the pinnacle, and this is one thing I'm not sure is still happening. The pinnacle should be India. The pinnacle should be World Cups, should be Test matches, should be World Cup 20 over cricket, World Cup 50 over cricket. I wonder now with the pinnacle for a young, talented Indian boy and girl is IPL. I wonder whether that's their end goal, because that's where they see it being monetary, very, very good, but also a lot more opportunities.
Absolutely.
It's harder. It's harder to make that Indian team.
100%.
Is that the goal though? Or is the IPL just become
It's a good point that you mentioned, because I think the IPL can probably catapult you to fame and superstardom much quicker than taking the longer, more arduous route, which is Test cricket. Not to mention the fact that it's box office, and I think some of the glitz and the glamour and the razzmatazz appeals a lot to the younger generation.
Yeah, it does, but it's, you know, it's tough playing 4-day cricket, and that's why I admire the players that are still in their 30s and playing Ranji Trophy cricket in this country. And you know, what the BCCI have done as well is they've obviously the payments have ramped up in the last few years from a Ranji Trophy point of view, which is great, because you want those players
to be
in their 30s to be incentivized to keep playing the game, to bring the young talented players on. You want that to be an option. And there's so many talented cricketers in and around the country that don't get an IPL opportunity. So you still want your domestic and your first class cricket to be stronger, and I think that's one area that they've done really well in making sure that those guys are now getting paid a lot better. And, you know, they're not in line with an IPL contract, but it is much, much better than it was, and I think that's a terrific step forward to keep growing that side of the game and making sure that it's not just T20 focused as well.
A couple of minutes ago, you talked about how there might be some young players that are coming up the ranks who might be sidetracked by off-field activities, affairs, sagas that might be going on, which might not allow them to operate in the best mind space on the field. Like an example, unfortunately, that came to my mind is that of Prithvi Shaw. Again, possesses truckloads of talent. I might be speculating. I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but sometimes you wonder, is he with the right people? Are the people who are part of his entourage good influences on him? And because it'd be a shame to see someone not quite fulfilling the truckloads of talent and potential that the person has.
Absolutely, and you know, I looked at Prithvi in the Under-19 World Cup when it was in New Zealand. He and Shubman were both there, along with numerous others that have sort of come through the ranks a little bit. Everyone was talking about Prithvi. I sort of thought Shubman was the better player at that stage, but he oozes talent, but he's just obviously got some troubles. You know, he's got some issues behind the scenes, which we don't need to talk about. If you know, you know, and you feel for him, but if he doesn't want to do it for himself first and foremost, if he doesn't want to get fit and ready to play, and if he doesn't have the right people around him to help him do that, then you kind of, he will fall by the wayside very, very quickly. So the influences around you are a big thing. I mean, it's interesting what Shubman Gill's done. He's gone away from it all, and he's got his best friend who's the same age and his sister. Well, I don't think that's right either. I don't think that's very good for him. I think there has to be some form of maturity to help him along as well. Great if you want to have your best mate looking after your sort of your side hustle and things like that. But you know, there's elements to this game and to investing your money, to looking after yourself, to making sure you don't have to work again, that come with age and maturity as well of someone. So I think there's other things that he needs alongside his best friend and his sister doing his business as well. But there's different ways for everyone. And I don't agree with all the there's a lot of management companies out there that don't do a great job as well. So it's just finding the right people in and around you. I've never had a manager. Never had a manager.
Not even now, as a commentator, broadcaster?
Nope, never. Yeah. Always negotiated my own contract.
Oh, brilliant.
If you know your worth, you know your worth.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know my worth.
Yeah.
And
more power to you, Dooley. Absolutely love that attitude. You're a big football fan as well, Liverpool fan. We spoke about Prithvi Shaw's example in cricket, but there are plenty of examples from the world of football as well. One that comes to my mind is Dele Alli. He was doing so well with Tottenham Hotspur, supposed to be like the next kid on the block, bursting onto the scene like Micah Richards once did. But then you saw like a precipitous downfall. I'm glad that he seems to be turning a corner. At least that's what it seems like. He had that mini epiphany, that realization that he wasn't quite surrounding himself with the best of influences. And I just hope the likes of Prithvi, Delhi can turn a corner and actually fulfill their potential.
Well, I mean, I think there's a stat, and I might get it completely wrong, in American football that something like, there's only about 4 or 5% of American footballers who end up with any money at the end of their career. Like, you think about the amount of money they get paid. Yeah. And so many of them just fall by the wayside. And are broke or derelict or concussion problems, commit suicide. There's so much wrong with the way that you surround, as soon as you've got money. Jesse Ryder's a great example. Jesse Ryder's a terrific example. He just surrounded himself with the wrong people. There was a certain manager in New Zealand that tried to help him and did everything he possibly could. He was a brilliant guy. His name escapes me right now, but he tried everything he possibly could to help Jesse Ryder along. But Jesse Ryder's friends were just the wrong people to be hanging around with. If they'd left him alone for 10 years, he would have had an amazing career, and then they could have had all the parties they wanted post-retirement. But they wanted to party from day one.
It's instant gratification versus delayed gratification.
As soon as he got his first paycheck, they just wanted to party. And he just went down the wrong road. And it was a seriously talented cricketer, Jesse Ryder. Double 100 against India and Napier. Superb fielder, bowled a bit, unbelievable hitter of the ball. Just got in with the wrong people. The wrong people were surrounding him. So there's a lot of stories like that. And nobody's going to get it exactly right. And I don't know the actual formula, but there is something to be said with getting the right people in and around you.
Guys, just a quick thought. A lot of you reach out to me asking me how I became a sports presenter without any degree whatsoever and without any relevant work experience. I recently did a workshop on how you can become a sports presenter. Extensive workshop, 3.5 hours long, where I literally covered the A to Z of how anyone, yes, you heard that correctly, anyone can break into the field of sports presenting. And I have the recording available for those of you who are interested. Please check out the link in the description that will give you access to the entire recording. And I wouldn't want you guys to miss out on this, especially if you're an aspiring sports presenter. Thank you so much. Now back to the episode. Yeah, we talked about quite a few cricketing personalities so far as part of the discussion. You strike me as a big, colourful personality, something that draws me to cricket, something that draws me to sport in general. Are the sporting personalities more so than the technical aspects of the game? And so I'd love to know from you, who are some of your favorite cricketing personalities? People who are more than just cricketers, people who are larger than life figures, past or present.
Yeah. Obviously Shane Warne. The funny, I don't know whether it just works out this way, but some of the biggest personalities on the field are also some of the greatest players. When you think about Warne, he was one of the great personalities on the field, off the field. He lived life and, sadly left us far too soon. But he was what he did for the game at the time, and even post his retirement, the amount of young boys and girls that wanted to be leg spinners after watching Shane Warne. I mean, the numbers just went exponentially around the world. It was incredible, the amount of people that wanted to take up leg spinning after they saw Shane Warne.
He made leg spin sexy.
He did. And when you can transform the game in a way like that, there has to be something about you. He was one of the great blokes to have a night out with.
Speaking from experience.
Speaking from experience. One of his favourite places in London, if you ever get to go, there is a place called Pizza Pomodoro on a Sunday night, and the owner dresses up like a Western character in just full leathers and chaps and a sawn-off jacket, and anyway, it's a great night out. Pizza Pomodoro on a Sunday night in London if you ever get there. But that was one of Warnie's great places that I went to him with. Play golf, that sort of thing. So, he's an incredible character. I think about, from New Zealand's point of view, I'm just trying to think back real characters of the game that I played with, likes of Dion Nash, tough as teak, wouldn't give an inch, but a real character on and off the field as well. He caused India some troubles. He had a great time in England in the '99 series for New Zealand. Virat's a character.
Yeah.
He's an absolute character. 99% of the people love him. There's a small percentage that might not, but some say he carries on too much on the field, but the passion is there. And if you have that passion, you have that character, the willingness to win, I think is a huge thing for all of those sorts of players. Curtly Ambrose, played against Curtly. He had that smile was wider than the pitch at times. When he was unbelievable cricketer, but a great personality. Plays in a band, plays bass guitar in a band. He and Richie Richardson had a band together. I don't know whether they still do. He was a terrific character, Curtly. So and I've been privileged enough to work with a lot of these people post playing as well, which has also been great.
Yeah, so you spoke about Shane Warne being larger than life. You related some anecdotes as well, which are very interesting. A line about Shane Warne comes to my mind. I read this somewhere, and this person mentioned that Warnie lived his life in such a way that he packed 100 years into 52.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and no doubt about that whatsoever. He was phenomenal. As I say, on and off the field. But the thing that people sort of don't realise probably as much, then maybe after post-death, which is sometimes a shame, is how much he loved his kids and family, how much family meant to him. All of those things as well, which were a huge part of Shane's life.
Yeah.
He loved the UK. He loved his time in the UK with Sky over there through the summers. To have the commentary box at Lord's as the Shane Warne commentary box is great. And he enjoyed his time here when what he did with Rajasthan. It was
phenomenal.
Just unbelievable. Were they the cheapest purchased team in the league? I think.
Yeah.
He came in. You looked at that side and you thought, how can they win? How could they win? With the superstars in the other teams, how could they possibly win? But what he was able to do with them, and that's the sort of person and the character and the player that he was.
Yeah, I've read his autobiography, No Spin. Absolutely loved it from start to finish. Again, a very honest tale of his life, everything that he was going through off the field. But the one thing that remained constant was his effervescent personality throughout. You talked about Virat Kohli as well, and you said 99% of the people love Virat Kohli. There might be some people who think that he goes a bit too far.
Yeah.
So I have this take on Virat Kohli, and I've actually discussed this with quite a few of my friends. Would love to get your opinion on this as well. I sometimes feel Virat Kohli is the type of person who needs to operate with a chip on his shoulder or a chip on both shoulders to actually get the best out of him, which is why sometimes when there are commentators who might criticize him, albeit rightfully, he looks at that as a personal affront and then feels as if, okay, my mission now is to prove this other person wrong, which is why I feel if Virat Kohli was to become too zen-like, you probably wouldn't be seeing the best of Virat Kohli. So he might, even if enemies don't exist, he might create false enemies in his head just so that he can declare himself a hero by proving those enemies wrong.
Maybe that does fuel him, and that's actually what a couple of people said to me after I thought about it. They said, I think that sort of stuff fuels him. I think he wants to be in the fight. He's the sort of player that I think playing against, you would never say a word. Steve Waugh, don't say a word. Just shut up. Do not say a word to Steve Waugh. Don't let him get his back up. Virat would be that type of player for me. If you're playing a game against him, just shut up. Just do not say a word to him. You can beat the bat 3 times. He might nick one through the slips. Whatever happens, just do not say a word. Leave him be. Because as soon as he gets in the fight, that's what fuels him.
Yeah.
That's what he wants. He wants people to be at him. He wants to go against you. He wants a one-on-one contest. And I think that really fires him up. So I'd be just saying nothing at all if I was the opposition. But from that point of view, you may be right. And maybe he needs it because he's had so much success. And he's done so much. But I love the way he's approached this year's tournament as well. I mean, the way he took the bowling on more, the way he was unafraid to get out. So the one thing for me that he really stood out this year was the fact that he was really prepared to take the bowling on, to take some risks, and to and to try and test himself.
Dooley, would you say that's the hallmark of a great athlete, a great player, someone who reinvents himself or herself, despite the fact that he or she might not have the same physical ability in the mid-30s, late 30s as they did in their 20s, they still somehow find a way to reinvent themselves and still compete at the highest level? Cristiano Ronaldo is another example that springs to mind.
Michael Jordan.
Jordan.
Not exactly reinventing, but just still finding the ability to go as hard or play as well, even though you're just slowing down slightly. The one thing, from Virat's point of view, his fitness is never, ever going to be questioned. It's such a great ability to have, to understand that your body is getting older, but your mind has still got all the technical abilities to sort of do what you want to do. How do I get about doing it? How do I find a way to do it slightly differently, slightly less pace, but still as foxy, still as cunning, maybe. And it's such a great ability to have it. And you think about Tom Brady, only the best get to do it. You mentioned Ronaldo. I think only the best know how to do it, still get the best out of their body, best out of their mind, even when their body is slightly on the older side of what we determine peak to be.
Tony Cruz, Luka Modric, maybe Paul Scholes as well, towards the fag end of his career at Manchester United.
Absolutely, and those are, there's very few. There's very few that can do it, but some do.
But I have to say, you talked about Virat's fitness levels. You also talked about Faf du Plessis' fitness levels. I think the only person who has guns bigger than Virat's guns and Faf du Plessis' guns is Simon Doull. Mate, I have to say, I've been reading a lot of the comments on Cricbuzz Live.
Right.
Also with me, the gun show, straight from the gym, Mr. Simon Doull.
I've been reading some of the comments, and they're like, Jesus Christ, look at Simon's guns, look at Dooley's guns. I think he's showing off, isn't he? But Dooley, seriously, but compared to last season, I think last season, I'd like to think that my guns were bigger than yours.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
I think now you beat me by quite the distance. I'm guessing fitness is something you've been taking very seriously in the recent past.
Yeah, I stopped for a little while. So when COVID hit, I was stuck in New Zealand for 6 months and probably got a little bit lazy. Ended up washing windows for a living because there was no cricket on, and my father-in-law at the time had a house cleaning business, and I didn't want to do nothing. So I'd get up at 6 o'clock every morning and I'd just go out and I'd wash windows. So I did it for 6 months, middle of winter, freezing cold, and I probably got a little bit lazy, and then when we did it, the first COVID IPL was when it came back in Dubai, and we had quarantine, and then we weren't allowed out of the rooms, and I was sort of just sitting there thinking, what can I do? And so I started doing push-ups. My good mate Jason Whedon, who's probably one of the best personal trainers I've ever had in my life, he said, if all you can ever do is push-ups and sit-ups, he said, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You don't need a gym. So I started and I couldn't do 20. And by the end of the IPL, I was doing 500 a day.
Jesus.
And then I sort of stopped last year a little bit more and didn't really, I don't know, I just got bored of it. And sometimes if you're only doing the one exercise or two exercises, you can get a bit bored. And so I've just started doing it again this year, just trying to keep in shape. But at 54, if your body changes, you've got to try and keep up with the youth of today.
Only on paper. Only on paper.
And it just, I find that it helps my golf as well. If you stay physically fit and strong, you can actually I can get more power into the golf ball. And that's my main goal at the moment, is just to play golf well. And I find that a bit of exercise certainly helps that. I love swimming as well. So hotel's got a decent indoor pool, so I love swimming as well.
And one of the other reasons that I asked you this question is because I came across a clip of yours from 5.5 years ago on Cricbuzz Live.
Okay.
And this is...
Am I going to like this?
This is what you look like. And in the edit, I'm going to show this on screen. So this is what you look like. Compared to what you look like now.
Yeah.
Look, I must say...
I look older there.
You're much older, substantially older.
Yeah.
You're still dressed very sharply. But apart from that, currently, you're so much more chiseled. So chiseled that your jawline can probably cut through diamond as well. Your beard and hair,
Yeah.
absolutely on point here compared to what it was like right now.
It was a bit long, wasn't it? And the
Much
beard was a
longer.
bit long. I think
Much
as you get
longer.
older, this is a tip for you because I know you like the beard. The shorter you keep it as you get older, I think the younger it keeps you.
Okay.
The longer and more unruly it gets, that I think the older you start to look. So that's one tip. I have a barber now in the UK and I have a barber in Dubai where I sort of spend my time.
So is that tip bound to increase female attention, Dooley?
I don't need any more of that.
For me.
Oh, for you, sorry, yes. Yes, well, I'm not sure you need any more of that either.
But no, I mean, Dooley, more power to you when it comes to fitness. I think you're a massive inspiration for many people. There are so many youngsters now who might feel as if, you know what, it's fine, I'm married now, I've got a partner, I don't necessarily have to look all that good. But the fact that you still keep in pristine shape, even at the age of 54, despite the fact that you don't look 54.
It doesn't take long,
Yeah.
you know, like in half an hour in your room, I do it in the hotel room. I don't go to the gym at all. I just do it in the hotel room. And within half an hour, I can have done, easily do 300 press-ups, a couple of hundred sit-ups in half an hour, and you're done. You don't have to get in your car and go to the gym. You don't just find a room in your home or your hotel and just get it done. And if you've got the motivation to do it, you'll be fine.
And would I be right in saying that the fact that you feel better about yourself because you're physically fitter allows you to present your most confident self as well when you're expressing yourself during broadcasts and during shoots?
Absolutely. And also, I hope it's okay to say, but I enjoy a beer. But I like to earn it. And I feel that if I've done that, well, I've earned myself a beer or two or a nice glass of single malt. And that's kind of, it's not why I do it, but that's part of the journey of being allowed to have a drink is because I feel like I've done the work to earn that. And that's sort of one of the things I look at. And that's what inspires me a little bit too. If I get lazy, then I don't deserve to have a drink. So then I don't.
Love it. Here's hoping, that at the end of this shoot, we end up getting some companies, some beer companies or whiskey companies sponsoring this podcast as well. I'll have you to thank.
There's some very good Indian single malts. Some really, I won't name them because I want you to go out there and I want them to come to you. But there's some really good Indian single malts on the market now. And, I've normally been a Scottish, sort of not the Islays, but a Scottish guy. And I'm really enjoying some of the Indian ones now.
Yeah.
So country's flying.
It's very evident from your social media that you also enjoy like a nice glass of wine. So if you had to pick one amongst the three, wine or whiskey or beer, which one would you pick and why?
I have a saying, and you can use this for anything you like, but when it's light, I drink beer. When it's dark, I drink red wine, and when it's really dark, I'll have whiskey.
I'm guessing really dark, not just in terms of the environment, but also figuratively or metaphorically.
Correct.
Dooley, speaking about, you talked about the fact that fitness allows you to present a more confident version of yourself in commentary. I absolutely love your commentary, and I'm echoing the sentiments of millions of cricket fans all around the world. I would honestly call you one of the doyens of cricket broadcasting as well. You articulate things beautifully, but we were having a conversation off air, and you mentioned that when you first started out, you weren't as good at articulating things as you are right now. Have you, through deliberate practice, gone about honing this skill of yours to make you a better presenter, commentator, broadcaster?
Yeah, I started in radio. When I first finished cricket in 2000, 2001, I got offered a job in radio because I'd talked to these two guys on the rock radio station quite a lot through my career. They would ring me up and just talk cricket and put it back on air. And I got offered a job reading sport and being part of the breakfast show on their show when I left playing cricket. And I went to Auckland for a week and did the show, and I had to read the sports news, and I listened back to myself and I was atrocious. I was awful. Like just reading sports news, I was terrible because it wasn't me and it wasn't in my own voice. I was reading what someone else had written. And so from there I went, I accepted the job because they said, look, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as you thought. Accepted the job, and then I went to see a guy called John Sweetman, who was the voice coach and the voice trainer for one of the TV companies in New Zealand. And I spent a lot of time with him, just learning how to speak, learning how to sort of articulate, get your sentences right, not have too much inflection at the end and go up at the end and all that sort of thing. And it was really good for me. The radio was the best thing I ever did, I think, for television because radio's live. So as soon as the mic goes on, radio's live and you're entertaining people.
Absolutely.
And I think as soon as the television stuff came along, I didn't find it easy, but I was reasonably comfortable with everything being live. I don't like to pre-record things. So let's pre-record a pitch report. I say, no, let's just do it live. Or let's just record it and that's it. Because if you have an out, you'll take it.
Absolutely.
And when we're having a conversation, and this is the one thing about television or when newsreaders and broadcasters, they have a teleprompter, right? They've got a teleprompter. They're reading a script. Okay. When we're having a conversation about cricket in an environment like a coffee shop or a lounge, you'll be like, oh, I remember that game back in 2013. Who was it that scored runs? So when you're doing a pitch report, it's okay. Last game it was Chennai, wasn't it? That's right. It was Chennai up against Bangalore, and Thuff got runs. I think Thuff got runs in that game. So it's okay because that's just conversation.
Right.
That's talking. You're not reading a script. We are not newsreaders. So you just have to be as authentic and as natural as possible. And that's one thing that radio, I think, was so good for me. It's live.
Yeah.
You might say the wrong thing. That's okay. You just carry on.
Yeah.
Don't take your out just because you've got it. So that's one thing I learnt through the radio side of things, and then just learn the speaking, how to articulate. I take pride in the names. I really try to get the subcontinent names. They're not easy. Some of the other places around the world are not easy, but I really pride myself in trying to get the names right, and it's something I've always done since coming to India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. I make sure I ask the players. I'll ask someone in the team, how do you get this one right? Because I think that's, not that Doull is that hard to say, but I've had Dowell and Dole and Doll and Dull.
You said that with a southern accent. Someone from Kentucky or Georgia would probably say it that way.
Yeah, but I think it's only right that you try and get the names right as well. So that's one thing I certainly pride myself on trying to do, and just learning from the best. Listening to, I worked alongside Ian Smith at the start of my career at Sky in New Zealand, and he's still a great mate of mine, one of my real inspirations. I think probably one of the best, if not the best commentator in world cricket at the moment. The privilege of sitting alongside him, the likes of Ian Bishop, Nasser Hussain, who I hold in an enormously high regard. Learning as you go from people like that has been really good.
And the best piece of advice that you've received that's really helped you as a commentator and a broadcaster?
I think trust yourself. Trust that you've played the game. Trust that you understand enough to have an opinion. Because if you don't think or your opinion is valuable enough, you won't get it across in the right way. I think that's
You'll come across as slightly tentative on the back foot.
And slightly like, oh, well, maybe he should be doing this. No. I mean, I think he should be doing this.
And people can sense that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think just trust your judgment. Don't get personal, and make sure you try and deliver it. And don't waffle on. Deliver it as short and succinctly as you can.
Yeah. And do you have any particular routine on a match day that gets you in the best space for your commentary stints?
It's a really weird one. I know some people keep a notebook with everything in it. I've never done that. I do read the stats. So on the way to the ground, I won't do too much sort of in the day building up to it. But on the way to the ground, I'll get my phone out, I'll read the stats, I'll make sure they're fresh in my mind, anything that's relevant that I need. I mean, we're very fortunate we have the stats guys sitting next to us who passes a bit of paper. I mean, we might sound very intelligent at times, but a lot of it is just coming from the guy next door, just passing us a bit of paper. But there's a lot of stuff you recall. If I clutter my mind with too many numbers and stats, I forget about the game. And the game is the most important thing. And if you come to the ground with an agenda of I need to get this stat out and that stat out and this, you forget about what's going on out in the middle. And you actually might miss something that's quite crucial. So I try not to go into it with any preconceived ideas of I must get this out or I must get that out. Those are for slow moments for me. Those are for moments in the game when I can say, well, do you know what high school this bloke went to? He went to the same school as such and such, because there's nothing going on in the game. But if I come in with all these preconceived stats and numbers and ideas, I forget about what's happening out in the middle. So most importantly, what's going on out there is the key.
I love that, Dooley. So I was lucky enough to have had a conversation with Peter Drury.
Yeah.
This was during the lockdown when we were all indoors, and had a virtual podcast with him. And Peter Drury, I was talking to him about his piece of commentary on that goal that the Roman defender scored. AS Roma defender scored against Barcelona in that iconic match that took place in the Champions League back then. And that goes down as one of the most iconic pieces of commentary.
Roma have risen from their ruins! Manolas, the Greek god in Rome! The unthinkable unfolds before our eyes! This was not meant to happen. This could not happen. This is happening. Barcelona extraordinarily 8 minutes from elimination, and Di Francesco does not know where to go. Iniesta does not know where to look. It is a Greek from Mount Olympus who has come to the 7 hills of Rome and pulled off a miracle.
And I asked him, was that something you had prepared, or was that just instinctive? And he mentioned that, look, Anubhav, when there's a live match that's going on, even if I feel there is a probability of this happening, it will never quite transpire the way I envisioned it in my head. And so it's a fool's game for me to come up with a description of something that hasn't happened.
Yeah, correct.
And you're spot on when you say it takes you away from the present moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's different circumstances. Like the game is the game, but post the game, like if I'm doing, like I've done, I don't know how many IPL finals called the winning moments, and how many IPL finals. I will have notes next to me of title wins, that sort of thing next to me that I can refer to.
Because those are constants.
Because they are constants. This will be their 7th or their 6th title win, you know, those sorts of things. So the constants you can have next to you that remind you post the winning moment, but they're not things that you don't write things down that you bring up, I don't think, intentionally. In a commentary situation, because you will miss the moment if that happens.
Absolutely. And something else that Peter Drury had mentioned during the chat was there are some commentators who are words driven, others who are numbers driven. Of course, you have to be a mix of both, but you might be more inclined towards one side. Which side do you think you're more inclined towards, words driven or numbers driven?
Words.
Words.
I think I'm more inclined to words driven. Numbers can tell a story for anyone in the right way if they want them to, you know. I mean, I could bowl 140 Ks downhill, downwind at Wellington. I can only bowl 120 uphill up into the wind. So, you know, numbers can tell a story whichever way you want it to go. But I sort of prefer words. I prefer the sort of try and articulate and talk to the cricket lover, the common person, for want of a better term, the person who just loves watching their cricket. They don't want to see and hear numbers and stats all the time. I think they like opinions. They like, you know, one of the things with television broadcast I find now is nobody ever turns the television on to listen to a commentator. Yeah. That's one of the biggest mistakes that broadcasters make, I think. Nobody ever turns the TV on to listen to a particular commentator. They'll turn it off if they don't like the commentator, but they turn the TV on to watch the game. And as long as the commentary is good, it actually doesn't matter who's doing it.
Yeah.
As long as it's good. You might turn it off if you really dislike the person, which you know may happen or may not happen.
Definitely does happen.
But predominantly, people around the world, no matter where you are, turn the television on to watch the game. And as long as you've got good commentary, it doesn't matter who's doing it. So don't make the mistake that if Sachin Tendulkar's commentating, I'm going to turn the telly on. No, you're not. You're turning it on to watch the cricket. Put Sachin in the studio, thousands and millions of people will tune in to watch him in the studio and talk about cricket, because that's something that he absolutely loves and is very good at. But you know, I think that's one of the mistakes that sometimes the broadcasters get wrong.
And sometimes do you also let the pictures do the talking?
Yeah. More so in Test match cricket, and more so, you know, it's a hard thing to do in T20 cricket because, in particular, some of the franchise tournaments around the world, there's so many sponsorship mentions that you very rarely get time to let the game breathe or let the pitchers do the talking. But in Test match cricket, I've sat in Test match situations and let 2 overs go by without saying a word. It's great. It's nice because not much is happening. You don't need to say anything. Nothing major's happened, so it's okay to do that. But you don't get that opportunity in T20 cricket, particularly franchise cricket, when you've got a sponsorship mention every 2 or 3 balls. So I like to do that, but it doesn't happen very often, mainly in test matches.
And you mentioned that you find yourself more in the words camp compared to the numbers camp. I've got a love for language and words. I absolutely love wordplay. Not saying that I'm good at it, but the art of wordplay is something that I continue to hone. In fact, I say this, and this might be slightly politically incorrect, but I sometimes enjoy wordplay more than foreplay. Yeah. or let me put it this way: good wordplay can lead to foreplay.
Okay,
if you know what I mean. Are you someone who's got a fascination with words and language as well?
Not particularly language. I've sort of I've learned how to get by in certain countries. Here is one of them. Ex-partners, I guess. I've learned a little bit of Russian. I learned a few different languages, a little bit of Dutch nowadays. Look, it's not something I take a huge interest in. I do Wordle. I love the Wordle. Brigitte and I have a competition on a daily basis for the daily Wordle. How many turns it takes you to get it.
And who currently holds bragging rights?
Well, we're pretty even. I will say there's this thing in England called the 1% Club. And I've started calling her Hoffman because she sees stuff that just I cannot see. So she gets the 1% question right more often than I've ever seen. And it's like, how do you see that? And it's like, I don't know, I just started calling her Rain Man and Hoffman. So she probably got the wood on me on that, to be honest.
Dooley, it's very clear that you have not just a flair for commentary, which is very evident, but you have this love for commentary. That's one of the reasons why at the start of the recording as well, I mentioned that it's more like play to you as opposed to work. In your Twitter bio, you mentioned, I have the best job in the world. That's probably one of the reasons why you end up working 366 out of 365 days in a year.
I'm banned from Twitter now, eh?
Are you?
Yeah, I haven't been on. Look, when was my last post? It was well over a year ago. It was like January 2022, 23. I got banned. Can't get back on.
Yeah. I think since the time they rebranded
if anyone can help me with that.
Elon Musk, are you listening?
Exactly.
So given all the action that's taking place, given the fact that you're traveling all over the world for covering cricket, how do you de-stress emotionally? What do you do to unwind?
I'd like to say golf, but golf winds me up more than anything. And it's funny because the better you get, I think the more frustrating it becomes. But no, I absolutely love it. I would be, when I go back home to the UK or when I go back to Dubai, I fly in Monday morning after or when any tournament finishes, I fly in on a Monday morning and I'm on the golf course an hour later. Because that's my sanctuary, that's what I just love. And I would say sometimes it does wind me up, but more often than not, it's Brigitte calls it my happy place. If I send her a picture of me at the golf course, she said, Simon's in his happy place. And that's kind of it for me. I just am. Whether it be sitting in the coffee shop at the course, whether it be on the driving range, or whether it be actually playing, that's me. I don't do the beach much. I'm not a beach guy. I'd just rather be on the golf course. I really enjoyed, I've just started playing paddle and I really enjoy that as well. So that's been nice. I don't really read a lot. I've watched everything possible on Netflix. So if it's not Netflix or outdoor playing golf, then I'm just probably relaxing.
Yeah. So I'm guessing she doesn't interfere with your golfing endeavors whatsoever.
She wants to play golf.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough argument, this one at home, because She said, "Oh, can I come to golf with you?" I'm like, "No, I'll get lessons for you. I'll pay for you to have lessons, and you can go and play with other people that are more at your level. But I'm not taking you to golf. Golf's for me. Golf's my." So we're going through that at the moment, which is it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I find that it's my place. It's my one outlet. But I'm sure she'll wear me down as she does.
And I know you're very humble, but you can still disclose what your handicap is.
Currently, it's 0.8, so 1.
Aspirational. Aspirational. Maybe I can get lessons from you one day, Dooley. I think that's going to be like the the dream objective.
You're welcome anytime. Anytime you come to Dubai, I'll give you lessons.
Superb. Dooley, to round off, I have a rapid fire segment.
Cool.
Not too many questions, 4 or 5. Some of them might entail you thinking out loud as well, in which case you can be semi-rapid if you want to. But number 1, and you may have answered this already, what's your go-to pick-me-up when you might be feeling down and out, down in the doldrums? What lifts your spirits?
Flat white. A cup of coffee. And if it was a cup of coffee in New Zealand or Australia, a flat white would just pick me up beautifully.
Superb. What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, chocolate. Yeah, absolutely chocolate. I'm a bath guy. I'm not a shower guy. I prefer a bath, and I will take sort of about 5 litres of water and a bar of chocolate and sit in the bath for a couple of hours and watch Netflix.
You don't feel guilty about that, do you?
No, not at all. Not at all, but it does. I feel slightly bad after I've demolished a king-size bar of chocolate.
So come the end of the podcast, we'll have a beer sponsor, a whiskey sponsor, a wine sponsor, and a chocolate sponsor
Whittaker's.
as well. And probably a golfing partner as well. Your 3 dream dinner guests.
Oh.
These could be people from the past as well, dead or alive.
Okay.
But 3 people you'd love to have dinner with.
Wow. Fred Couples. I mean, a lot of people would say Tiger Woods, and I admire Tiger's golf like no other business, but Fred Couples would be my golfing idol. So he would definitely be there. The number I wore on my shirt when I played was number 91. And it was because, I had earrings and I shaved my head and I was maybe a bit of a bad lad, according to the coach. But it was 91 because of Dennis Rodman.
Okay.
The Bulls guard. So Dennis Rodman and Fred Couples would be there. And what else do I want? I'd like to get a little bit of an insight on maybe the history, and I love America, so Abraham Lincoln, Fred Couples, and Dennis Rodman. What a trio.
That's such a diverse mix.
What a trio.
That's such a diverse mix. But very strong and colourful personalities, all of them.
Great personalities, and that'd be quite an interesting dinner table, I think.
Absolutely. Dooley, love this from start to finish. You know what? I have one more question. In fact, my favorite one. Because I'm a massive foodie, I have to ask you, if you could eat only one food item for the rest of your life, assuming there are no health consequences whatsoever, which one would you pick and why?
This will surprise you. Broccoli.
Is it the 1st of April today?
Honestly, it is my favorite food. I could eat broccoli 10 different ways and it would still be my favorite food. I love a steak, I love curry, but if there was only one option on the table, it would be broccoli.
Was it an acquired taste for you or love at first sight?
I don't know. I don't even know whether I liked it as a kid or not. But if I'm cooking for myself or if I'm cooking at home, there will more often than not there'll be a nice steamed head of broccoli, or I'll take it out and char grill it with a little bit of sea salt and some balsamic vinegar. If you want to try that, balsamic vinegar, sea salt, and char grill your broccoli. It's outstanding, particularly the long stems. Or you can just steam it, do anything you like with it, wrap it up in a little bit of tin foil. You can put it in the pizza oven with a little bit of horseradish and some salt and pepper. It's also magnificent. So that's me, broccoli.
So Dooley, here's the plan. Let me know if this sounds good to you. So the next time I'm in Dubai, which is where you currently live, we'll play a solid round of golf. I'll be coached by Simon Doull.
That's it.
After the round of golf, we enjoy some beer and broccoli.
Beer and broccoli, perfect. Love it. Cannot wait. And then we'll get out on the boat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Brilliant, Dooley. Hey mate, I absolutely love this from start to finish. Hopefully this was a refreshing experience for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. You were as radically honest as you always are, with your brilliant sense of humor. And thank you so much for a thoroughly entertaining last hour.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. It's been great fun, and hope it goes well. And Dhoni fans, don't troll me.
Cheers, Dooley. Thank you so much, mate. Cheers. Thank you so much for giving me company for the entirety of this episode. If you enjoyed it, then a like from you by pressing the button. A like from you will do wonders for the algorithm, and the algorithm will do its magic and spread the video to others as well who may enjoy it. If you enjoyed this, then I have got a feeling that you're also going to enjoy this episode that I did with R. Sridhar, the former fielding coach of Team India, who spent 7 years in the Indian team dressing room working with the likes of MS Dhoni, Virat Kohli, Ravi Shastri and many other big personalities. And in the episode, he's recounted some of his favorite memories from that 7-year stint that he had with the Indian team. Also, I'd love for you guys to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. I've got some very exciting podcasts that are in the pipeline, recently filmed with Robin Uthappa as well, and that's due to be released in the next few days. So subscribe such that you don't miss out on any of the upcoming content. And last but far from least, those of you who are aspiring sports presenters, you'll find the link to the workshop on how you can become a sports presenter in India in the description. Thank you so much again for joining me on this episode. Until next time, take care.